They laughed when he walked in, mocked his worn shoes, and whispered cruel jokes behind his back. To them, he was just another delivery man, invisible, replaceable, unimportant. But what they didn't know was that every insult was being quietly noted, every humiliation patiently endured. And when the truth finally came out, the room that once echoed with laughter would fall into a silence so heavy it would change their lives forever. The glass doors of the luxury corporate tower slid open with a soft hiss, letting in a rush of cold air and a man no one bothered to truly look at. He wore a faded blue delivery uniform, slightly creased, with a company logo that had been washed too many times to look sharp anymore. His shoes were clean but old, the kind that had walked miles without complaint. In his right hand, he held a medium-sized cardboard package. In his left, a clipboard pressed gently against his chest, as if it offered some kind of protection. His name was Adam. Adam paused just inside the entrance, taking in the marble floors, the tall golden pillars, the chandelier that sparkled like it belonged in a palace rather than an office building. He had been here before, many times actually, but each visit carried the same invisible weight. He adjusted his posture, lifted his chin slightly, and walked toward the reception desk with quiet confidence. Behind the desk sat 3 young employees, all dressed in perfectly tailored suits. One of them, a man with slicked-back hair and an expensive watch, glanced at Adam and smirked. "Delivery's late," he said loudly, not even checking the time. "You people are always late." Adam offered a polite smile. "Good morning. I'm right on schedule, actually. I have a package for the executive floor." The second receptionist, a woman scrolling through her phone, didn't bother looking up. "Executive floor?" she scoffed. "Are you sure you're in the right building?" A soft chuckle rippled between them. Adam remained calm. "Yes, ma'am. This package is addressed to—" "Listen," the first man interrupted, standing up slightly, so he could look down on Adam. "Just leave it here. Someone important will come get it. No need for you to wander around like you own the place." A few people in the lobby had begun to notice. Well-dressed professionals slowed their steps, some pretending to check messages while openly watching the scene. There was a quiet enjoyment in their eyes, the kind that comes from seeing someone else put in their place. Adam's fingers tightened around the clipboard for just a second. "I was instructed to deliver it personally," he said, his voice steady and respectful. "Signature required." That did it. Laughter broke out, sharp, mocking, unapologetic. "Signature?" The woman laughed now, finally looking up. "Do you know where you are? People upstairs sign contracts worth more than your entire lifetime." Another man walking by joined in. "Hey, buddy," he said, grinning. "Wrong elevator. The service entrance is around the back." More laughter. Adam felt it then, that familiar sting in his chest. Not anger, not shame. Something quieter. He had felt this many times before. In airports, in restaurants, in places where appearances decided your worth before you even spoke. He nodded once. "I understand." That answer seemed to disappoint them. They wanted resistance, embarrassment, maybe even anger. But Adam gave them none of it. The first receptionist waved a dismissive hand. "Just stand there. Don't touch anything." Adam stepped aside, standing near a tall indoor plant. He placed the package carefully on the floor beside him and waited. Minutes passed. Conversations resumed. The lobby returned to its rhythm, heels clicking, elevators chiming, money and power flowing invisibly through the air. A young intern passed by and whispered to her friend, not quietly enough, "Imagine being his age and still delivering packages." Her friend replied, "Some people just don't aim high." Adam heard every word. His eyes drifted toward the large digital screen on the wall. It displayed a looping video about the company's values. integrity, respect, excellence. The irony almost made him smile. As he waited, memories surfaced uninvited. Years ago, Adam had stood in a very different room, one filled with lawyers, advisors, and board members. Back then, he wore a tailored suit, his name spoken with respect. He had built something from nothing, something powerful. But life had taught him lessons no business school ever could. Loss, betrayal, trust, and the dangerous blindness that comes with wealth. Today wasn't an accident. This delivery wasn't random. He had chosen this moment. The elevator chimed again. A group of executives stepped out, laughing loudly. One of them, a tall man with silver hair, glanced at Adam and frowned. "Why is the delivery guy blocking the lobby?" he asked sharply. The receptionist rushed to explain. "He insists on a signature, sir. Says it's important." The executive looked Adam up and down. "Isn't everything important to you people?" he muttered. Adam picked up the package and stepped forward. "Sir, this is addressed to the executive board. I was told it must be handed over directly." The man sighed dramatically. "Fine. Give it here." Adam didn't move. "I'm sorry, sir. I need the board present." That was the instruction. Now the room went quiet. The executive's face reddened. "Do you know who you're talking to?" Adam met his eyes calmly. "Yes. And I know what I was asked to do." There was something in Adam's gaze, steady, unshaken, that made the man hesitate. Murmurs spread through the lobby. Phones were subtly raised. Something felt different. The executive straightened his jacket. "Get the board," he snapped. As employees hurried toward the elevators, Adam stood alone again, holding the package that suddenly seemed much heavier than before. The laughter was gone now, replaced by curiosity and unease. Adam exhaled slowly. The waiting was almost over, and none of them were ready for what they were about to learn. The boardroom doors opened one by one, and the energy in the building subtly shifted. People who had once laughed now stood straighter. Voices lowered. Shoes slowed against the marble floor. When the executive board was summoned without explanation, it was never a small matter. Adam was escorted upstairs, not with respect, but with caution. Two security guards walked a step behind him, as if the cardboard box in his hands might suddenly turn into something dangerous. The elevator ride was silent except for the soft hum of machinery and the nervous clearing of throats. One of the guards glanced at Adam's reflection in the mirrored wall. "You should have just left it downstairs," he said quietly, not unkindly but firm. "People don't like complications." Adam nodded. "I understand. But some things need to be seen face to face." The guard didn't reply. The door slid open onto the executive floor, thick carpets, muted lighting, walls lined with abstract art that cost more than most homes. Adam stepped out, his worn shoes sinking slightly into the plush floor. A few assistants stood frozen, eyes darting between Adam and the security team. Inside the boardroom, the long table gleamed under warm lights. Leather chairs were already occupied by men and women whose names carried weight in financial circles. Some checked their watches impatiently. Others whispered, irritated at the interruption. The silver-haired executive who had spoken earlier cleared his throat. "We've been called here because a delivery man insists on personal protocol. Let's get this over with." A few chuckles followed. Adam stood at the far end of the table. He placed the package gently in front of him, but didn't push it forward yet. Instead, he looked around the room, slowly, deliberately, meeting each pair of eyes. The room grew quieter with every second. One woman finally broke the silence. "Is there a problem?" she asked sharply. Adam took a breath. "Before I hand this over, may I ask a question?" The silver-haired man frowned. "This is highly inappropriate." Adam didn't flinch. "How many of you walked through the lobby today?" A pause. Several nodded. And how many of you noticed the delivery man standing there? Another pause, longer this time. A man near the window scoffed. What does that have to do with anything? Adam smiled faintly. Everything. Murmurs spread again. The woman leaned forward. You're crossing a line. Adam reached into his pocket and pulled out an old, cracked phone. He placed it beside the package. This phone recorded everything that happened downstairs. The laughter. The insults. The way human dignity was reduced to entertainment. Faces stiffened. The silver-haired executive's voice hardened. Are you threatening us? No, Adam replied calmly. I'm reminding you. He slid the package across the table. This contains a full internal review, employee behavior, corporate culture, and a proposal for immediate restructuring. One board member laughed nervously. You expect us to believe a delivery man conducted an internal review? Adam finally straightened fully, shoulders back, presence filling the room in a way it hadn't before. I didn't expect belief, he said. I expected honesty. He reached into his jacket, slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a thin black folder. He opened it and turned it toward them. The room froze. On the first page was a photograph of Adam, but not in a delivery uniform. He wore a tailored suit, younger, confident. Beneath the photo was a name. Adam Hale, founder, major shareholder, former CEO. The silence was no longer uncomfortable. It was suffocating. One man stood abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. That's not possible, he whispered. Adam's voice softened. I stepped away years ago. I wanted to see what my company had become when power went unchecked. The woman's hands trembled slightly. You tested us? Adam shook his head. I observed you. He gestured toward the phone. You see, when people think no one important is watching, they reveal who they truly are. The silver-haired executive sank back into his chair, color draining from his face. Why didn't you say anything sooner? Adam's eyes met his. Because respect given only after titles are revealed isn't respect at all. A heavy weight settled over the room. Adam continued, his voice steady, but emotional now. I grew up watching my father clean offices like this. I watched people walk past him like he was invisible. I promised myself I would build something better. He swallowed just once. But somewhere along the way, this place forgot what humanity looks like. No one interrupted him now. The delivery uniform, Adam said quietly, is not a disguise. It's a reminder. Every role matters. Every person matters. Tears welled in the intern's eyes as she stood near the door, remembering her whispered words downstairs. Adam closed the folder. Effective immediately, leadership changes will be made. Training will be mandatory. And anyone who believes respect is optional will no longer represent this company. The silver-haired executive bowed his head. I'm sorry. Adam nodded. Apologies are beginnings, not endings. He picked up the package again. This wasn't about revenge, he said softly. It was about reflection. As he turned to leave, the room remained silent. No laughter, no arrogance. Only the echo of a lesson learned too late. In the hallway outside, the same guards stood straighter now. One of them spoke, voice filled with awe. Sir, I didn't know. Adam placed a hand on his shoulder. That's the point. He walked back toward the elevator, delivery complete. Not of a package, but of truth. The elevator descended slowly, but the weight Adam carried felt heavier than the package ever had. Behind him, the boardroom door remained closed, sealing in the shock, the shame, and the sudden realization that power, without humanity, was an empty thing. When the elevator doors opened onto the lobby, time seemed to pause. Every pair of eyes turned toward him. The receptionists who had laughed earlier now sat frozen, their confident smiles erased. The intern stood near the coffee station, clutching her cup with trembling hands. Even the people passing through the lobby slowed, sensing that something invisible but monumental had shifted. Adam stepped out calmly, his expression unchanged. He walked toward the reception desk, the same desk where moments ago he had been treated like he didn't belong. The first receptionist swallowed hard. "Yes, sir," he stammered, standing up too quickly and knocking his chair back. I didn't know." Adam stopped in front of him. "You didn't need to know." The words weren't sharp. They were gentle, and somehow that made them hurt more. "I judged you," the man admitted, his voice breaking. "We all did." Adam nodded once. That judgment follows people home. It shapes how they see themselves. Be careful with it. The woman who had laughed earlier covered her mouth, eyes shining with regret. "I'm sorry," she whispered. I thought respect was something you earned by status." Adam glanced around the lobby again. Respect is something you give before you know who someone is. That's when it matters. The security guards moved aside instinctively as Adam walked past. No one tried to stop him now. No one dared to laugh. Outside, the city buzzed like it always did. Cars honking, people rushing, life moving forward without pause. Adam stood on the steps of the building for a moment, letting the cold air fill his lungs. A memory surfaced. Years earlier, he had stood in the rain outside a restaurant after being turned away because his clothes were worn and his pockets empty. No one had asked his name then either. That night, he had promised himself that if he ever had power, he would use it to protect dignity, not demand it. A voice broke his thoughts. "Sir, Adam." He turned to see the intern running toward him, her face flushed with emotion. She stopped a few feet away, unsure whether she was allowed to speak. "Yes," Adam said. Tears streamed down her cheeks. "I said something cruel earlier. About you. About your age and your job. I didn't think you'd hear it." Adam looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, soft, understanding. "I did hear it. And I've heard worse." She shook her head. "That doesn't make it okay." "No," he agreed. "But what you do after realizing it, that's what defines you." She wiped her eyes. "I want to do better." Adam nodded. "Then you already are." She watched as he walked away, the lesson settling deep in her heart. Across the street, Adam stopped at a small cafe. The kind of place with chipped mugs and warm smiles. The barista, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes, greeted him kindly. "Long day?" she asked. Adam smiled. "You could say that." She handed him his coffee and said, "On the house." Adam tried to refuse, but she shook her head. Kindness doesn't need a reason. He sat by the window, watching people pass. Rich, poor, confident, invisible, all carrying stories no one bothered to ask about. His phone buzzed. A message from the board. "We understand now. Please return. We need your guidance." Adam stared at the screen for a long time before locking the phone and placing it face down on the table. Guidance wasn't given in boardrooms alone. That evening, Adam visited the company's distribution center, the place most executives had never seen. Workers paused when they saw him, unsure how to react. He moved among them, listening, asking names, shaking hands. One man looked at his uniform and laughed nervously. "You knew?" Adam smiled. "No. Just learning." Stories poured out. Long hours. Lack of respect. Being treated like machines instead of humans. Adam listened to every word. When he finally spoke, his voice carried weight, not of authority, but of understanding. "This will change," he promised. "Not because I say so, but because it must." The next morning, The company woke up to an announcement that shook the industry. Adam Hale had returned, not as a distant owner, but as an active leader. Policies were rewritten, training redefined, promotions reevaluated. But the biggest change wasn't on paper. It was in the way people looked at each other. The receptionist now greeted every visitor with warmth. The intern corrected her peers when jokes crossed lines. Managers learned names instead of titles. And in the center of it all, Adam continued to wear the same calm expression, the same quiet dignity. He knew the world wouldn't change overnight. But sometimes, all it takes is one moment, one delivery, to remind people of their humanity. Weeks passed, but the echo of that day refused to fade. Inside the company, something unfamiliar began to grow. Not fear, not obedience, but awareness. Meetings felt different. Conversations slowed. People listened more carefully, not because Adam Hale was watching, but because they had finally started watching themselves. Adam didn't move back into the executive suite. Instead, he worked from different departments each day. One morning, he sat with customer support, answering complaint calls. Another day, he rode along with delivery drivers, lifting boxes, feeling the weight in his arms and the strain in his back. He wore the same simple clothes, the same quiet expression. Some employees recognized him immediately. Others didn't. And that was exactly how he wanted it. One afternoon, Adam joined a delivery route with an older man named Victor. Victor had worked for the company for 22 years and had never once spoken to an executive. As they drove through crowded streets, Victor shook his head.
"Funny thing," he said.
"All these years, no one upstairs ever asked what it's like down here." Adam looked out the window. "What is it like?" Victor laughed softly. "Invisible. Until something goes wrong." They stopped at a high-end office building. As they unloaded packages, a well-dressed man wrinkled his nose and stepped aside as if Adam and Victor carried something unpleasant instead of cardboard. Victor lowered his voice. "You get used to that look." Adam felt something tighten in his chest. "You shouldn't have to." Back in the truck, Victor glanced at him. "You talk like someone who hasn't given up." Adam smiled faintly. "I almost did. Once." That night, Adam sat alone in his apartment, a modest place, despite his wealth. He replayed moments from the past weeks. Apologies, awkward smiles, quiet changes, but also resistance. Not everyone welcomed the shift. Some executives felt exposed, threatened. A few resigned quietly. Others stayed, but their resentment simmered beneath forced politeness. One of them was the silver-haired executive. During a leadership meeting, he finally spoke. "With all due respect, Adam, this level of involvement sends the wrong message. Boundaries exist for a reason." Adam looked at him calmly. "Which boundaries?" "The ones that separate leadership from labor." Adam folded his hands. "Those boundaries are why this company forgot its soul." The room went silent. Later that day, Adam received a letter, handwritten unexpected. It was from his father's former coworker, a janitor who had retired years ago. "I heard what you did," the letter read. "Your father would have been proud. He used to say dignity is the one thing no one can take, unless you give it away." Adam closed his eyes, emotion rising in his throat. The real test came soon after. A viral video surfaced online, recorded by someone in the lobby weeks earlier. It showed the laughter, the mockery, the humiliation Adam had endured. The internet exploded. Public outrage followed. News outlets called. Share prices trembled. The board panicked. "Release a statement," someone urged. "Spin it." Adam shook his head.
"No."
"No," the silver-haired executive snapped. "Our reputation is at risk." Adam's voice was calm but firm. Our reputation was at risk the moment respect became optional. He authorized the release of the full, unedited footage, along with a public apology and a detailed plan for reform. The backlash was harsh. But so was the honesty. Emails poured in. Not just criticism, but gratitude. Stories from workers everywhere who had lived similar moments of humiliation. Adam read them all. One message stood out. I was about to quit my job after being humiliated by a customer. Then I saw your
story.
I stayed. Thank you for reminding me I matter. Adam stared at the screen, tears blurring his vision. Change, he realized, wasn't loud. It was slow, personal, painful. Weeks later, Adam returned to the lobby where it had all begun. This time, there was no laughter. The same receptionist stood behind the desk, posture respectful, eyes kind. He smiled genuinely when he saw Adam.
Good morning, he said.
Welcome. Adam nodded. Good morning. As Adam walked through the space, he noticed small things. A thank you note taped to a desk. A manager helping carry boxes. A janitor greeted by name. It wasn't perfect, but it was human. Adam paused near the glass doors and looked back one last time. He hadn't revealed his identity to shock them. He had revealed it to awaken them. And the greatest lesson of all wasn't about power or wealth. It was about how easily we forget we're all standing on the same ground. The final change came quietly, the way all real transformations do. It happened on a rainy evening when the city lights blurred against wet streets and people hurried past one another, heads down, chasing their own worries. Adam had finished a long day, meetings, difficult decisions, hard conversations, and chose to walk instead of taking a car. Near the subway entrance, he noticed a familiar scene. A delivery man stood there, soaked to the bone, holding a damaged box. His shoulders were slumped, his face tight with worry. In front of him, a sharply dressed customer raised his voice, drawing a small crowd. Do you know how expensive what's inside this box is? The man snapped. People like you are always careless. The delivery man tried to speak. Sir, the rain? I don't care. The man cut him off. You're paid to deliver, not to explain. Laughter rippled faintly from the side. Not loud, not cruel, but dismissive enough to sting. Adam stopped walking. For a moment, he stayed exactly where he was, watching. This time, he wasn't the one being humiliated. And that difference mattered. The delivery man lowered his eyes. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Adam stepped forward. That's enough, he said. The customer turned, irritated. And who are you? Adam looked at the soaked uniform, the trembling hands gripping the box, the familiar silence of someone taught not to fight back. Then he met the man's eyes. I'm someone who knows what this feels like, Adam replied. The crowd grew still. He didn't disrespect you, Adam continued. Life did. And now you're passing it on. The customer scoffed. Mind your business. Adam smiled, not with superiority, but with calm certainty. This is my business. He removed his jacket and gently placed it over the delivery man's shoulders. The man looked up, shocked. You matter, Adam said softly. Never forget that. Someone in the crowd recognized him. That's Adam Hale, a voice whispered. The customer's face strained of color. But Adam didn't look at him again. Instead, he helped the delivery man secure the box, called customer support himself, and ensured the situation was handled with respect. When it was over, the delivery man's eyes were wet. Why would you do that for me? Adam placed a hand over his shoulder. Because once someone didn't do it for me. They parted ways, and Adam continued walking, the rain soaking through his shirt, but his chest felt lighter than it had in years. The next morning, Adam addressed the company in a simple message. Titles end at the door. Humanity doesn't. if we forget that nothing we build will last. It was shared millions of times. But Adam didn't measure success in views or headlines anymore. Weeks later, he returned once more to the lobby, not as a test, not as a lesson, but as a passerby. A delivery man entered behind him, nervous, unsure. The receptionist smiled warmly. "Good morning. How can I help you?" No laughter. No whispers. Just respect. Adam paused at the door, emotion rising in his throat. This was the real reveal. Not that a delivery man was powerful, but that power meant nothing without kindness, and that the way we treat people when we think they don't matter is exactly who we truly are. If this story touched your heart, remember this. The real measure of a person is not their title, clothes, or position, but how they treat those who can offer them nothing in return. Today it was a delivery man. Tomorrow it could be anyone. So choose kindness. Choose respect. Because you never know whose silence carries a story, and whose dignity is quietly changing the world. Thank you for listening.